Voice of college football, talking Florida Gators, and much controversy surrounding this program, coming off a 34-7 defeat to Georgia, 4-4 on the season. Dan Mullen, of course, on the hot seat to a certain extent, depending on who you talk to. We don't know what the reality is, of course. A quarterback controversy in play, and I think we got the right guy here. We always have the right guy to talk to in David Waters from Gators Breakdown. He's our guy when it comes to Florida football, but especially on this particular week, David, what are you up to? What kind of
shenanigans?
Yeah, shenanigans are you stirring up?
Yeah, Mark. So of course, Florida plays Georgia 34-7, as you said, and of course, every time Florida and Georgia get compared, a talent gap question comes up, rightfully so. And so Dan Mullen, loses the game. Asked about the talent gap after the game. Says, "Well, we beat them last year. Talent gap, right or wrong, wasn't necessarily there last year. We beat them on the field, but okay, you lost 34-7 this year." Somebody asked Kirby Smart on the Georgia side, why is your team so good? And Kirby Smart, boom, right to the point, recruiting. And in a way, I think it was a veiled shot at Dan Mullen and his approach. Basically, almost, I'll paraphrase what Kirby said, you can't coach your way around talent. You got to have the talent. And it's something we've preached on Gators Breakdown for years now. So, of course, recruiting is always a hot lightning rod subject when talking Florida, but also when comparing to Georgia and Alabama and the teams that you play on your schedule year in and year out. So Dan Mullen has his Monday normal press conference, and somehow I get the first question of the day. And I knew I was going to ask about recruiting, of course, because not to throw a shot, not to get noticed, to throw it out there. However it is,
it's a legitimate question.
It is a legitimate question. So I asked him, the approach of recruiting, does it need to change for a consistent level of play to keep up with Georgia, to keep up with Alabama? And before I could even really finish the question, I was cut off. And basically, Mullen did say, and I would defend him here at some point, he did say he's not going to discuss recruiting during the season. They'll discuss it during recruiting season. So whatever recruiting season is in his eyes, but basically saying he's not going to talk about it during the season. It kind of got misconstrued along the way, saying that he was not going to recruit during the season. And that's not what he meant. That's not what he was saying. He just basically pointed at me, at us in the media, not going to talk about recruiting during the season. So of course, a different strategy of approach than what Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, everybody, you're recruiting 24/7. Everybody knows that. So, and I will defend him there. It did get thrown out there. Oh, Dan Mullen only recruits during recruiting season. That's not what he said. And it was, if you listen to it, not just, read it, go by the quotes that were thrown out there. If you listen to it, it was a pointed at the media. I'm not going to talk about it right now. So there we go. That's the gist of it. It blew up. It's out there everywhere. Dan Mullen's getting thrown under the bus for first of all, just recruiting prowess overall anyway, and that's fair. But the expansion of that to say he doesn't care or that he doesn't recruit, kind of a bit too far.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack here. When Dan Mullen first got the job at Florida, coming from Mississippi State, for an outsider like me who just evaluates college football and looks at the numbers and the evaluation on the surface, it's difficult to say if a coach at Mississippi State can go to Florida, and then obviously the expectations of the recruiting is so much higher from being, let's say, 30th in the country to wanting to have and needing to have top 10 classes at Florida. So coming into the head coaching position at Florida, was it a known factor, or did people conclude that this was not a strength of his?
Concluded that it wasn't a strength, but Mark, I think the hope was he knew he had been at Florida under Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
Where it was live or die. You
Yes.
ate, and it at Ohio State. I mean, Urban Meyer's approach to recruiting. And then you're going to be a head coach at Mississippi State where you're playing the best to ever do it. Year in and year out. You know what it takes. You learn from one of the best. You played against the other best, all at the same time. So, don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of appreciation for coaches to want to do it their way. But when you learn from the best and go against the best, you know what it takes, especially in the SEC. Now, of course, can you get away with it at other places and you can make the playoff in a year where you're not recruiting at a top 5-ish, 7-ish level? Of course you can. But in the SEC, when it's Florida, or when it's Georgia, when it's Alabama, when it's LSU, when it's Texas A&M, and it's Auburn, those programs recruit at the level or better than you right now. And then you're going to add 2 more to the mix with Texas and Oklahoma. So, the future kind of comes into play here a little bit too. But, Mark, I'll go back, and I tweeted this long thread the other day. At 2018, when Dan Mullen was hired, he was the absolute right man for the job. Florida, at that time, really just needed to dig out of a hole. They needed to dig out of an offensive hole. And I thought along the way, he knew what it would take as far as recruiting goes to get Florida back to a level because of what I said, him learning from Urban, him learning against Saban of what it takes year in and year out to be at a championship level. Now, can you be in Auburn and beat Alabama once every 3-4 years and you take your chances and that means a college football playoff or a national championship berth? Yeah, sure. But is that what you want to be? Is that what you want to have to fall back on? You shouldn't have to. And for, besides this year, I know it's not, and maybe even the end of last year, Dan Mullen's getting questioned as a game day coach and a play caller a little bit as well. But given his overall reputation in that department, you pair that up with a top 5 roundabout recruiting class, pair that up with his coaching acumen, Florida's probably going to win a championship more times, not more times not, but eventually going to win a championship. Recruiting's not even at that level right now.
David, I don't want to misrepresent what I believe you've stated here and also tweeted, so I'm going to state it this way because I completely agree with it. When you've got a Nick Saban, who's the greatest of all time in your own division or in the conference, yes, is that something to say, wow, we've had to go up against this? We haven't been playing in the Pac-12 or the ACC Coastal for the last 10 years. We've had to go up against this. But, hey, that's the environment. That's the circumstance. You're being paid a ton of money to win championships, compete for championships. And nothing says that Alabama is going to be the greatest of all time and the best. And that's all the way that's what it is. There were generations gone by and not too long ago when Florida was better than Alabama, that Auburn was better than it. This is not set in stone and written in history that Alabama always has to be number 1. They can be dethroned. It isn't just a default that we give up. We can never get past this.
Mark, I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of Gator fans will throw out there, it's not fair to compare to Nick Saban and Alabama. Why isn't it? Why? You think Georgia, when they hired Kirby Smart, well, we can't be Alabama. We won't. That's not their goal. They're not sitting there saying, well, you can't compare us to Alabama. No, they want to be compared to Alabama, and that's the mindset. And they have done everything in their power to do so. And now I know, keep talking about Gator Nation and the Gator fan base. I'm part of it too. I know. And they'll sit here and throw, well, what has Georgia won? It doesn't matter what Georgia's winning. They're keeping Florida from winning. I could care less how many national championships Georgia has. They're keeping Florida from winning national championships with their level of recruiting and beating Florida in Jacksonville more times than not since Dan Mullen has taken over. So it's not about what Georgia is doing in the grand scheme of things. It's about what they're doing to keep Florida from doing what they should be doing. So there's a couple of different ways to look at it. Mark, I mean, not to sound too down on Dan Mullen, if he's willing to change his ways and staffing and recruiting, keep him. I mean, but he's got to be willing to make those changes. I think he's the right guy. Like I said, you pair his coaching with the talent level, I think he can do it. But there's going to be some looking in the mirror from administration, from athletic director, Dan Mullen, players, coaches. All that needs to happen for this thing to get turned around and be a title contender year in and year out.
David Waters, Gators Breakdown. Even if you don't like Florida football, if you want to keep up with the top brands in the country, you follow him here on YouTube and the Gators Breakdown broadcast here on YouTube and also on your favorite audio platform, because as you can tell right here, the discussion's great. Please lock it in here at the Voice of College Football as well. Any successful person in a high-level industry, doesn't even have to be coaching, is self-aware to know this is what I'm great at, and this is what I'm not great at. Therefore, I surround myself with great people in these areas in which I'm not great. Like if Lane Kiffin truly is serious about winning and not just running up 50 points a game and winning 8 games a year, but if he's serious about championships, what should he do? Go get the best defensive coordinator he can possibly find. For Dan Mullen, I would think, okay, he's got to be self-aware to know I'm great at this. Recruiting, I'm either not good at it or I just don't enjoy it. I don't thrive on it. Therefore, surround myself with a staff of great recruiters.
Yeah, he's hanging on to the buddy system, and you look at his staff. It's a staff that's been around him for a very, very long time. Offensive line coach John Hevesy, running back coach Greg Knox, Billy Gonzalez, wide receiver coach. All of them came over from Mississippi State with him. And look, on the offensive side of the ball, it's kind of hard to put the blame all on them. Florida has to get better in the trenches. We saw that Saturday. John Hevesy's been around Dan Mullen for a long time. I'd make a move there. Greg Knox, the running back coach, also the special teams coach. Running backs, okay, I can live with what Florida's had there. Special teams, absolute disaster this year. So either give him the pure running back role. If you don't want to do that, get rid of him, get somebody else who can do running backs and special teams if you want your running back coach to do that. But it really is the defensive side of the ball right now, Mark. And granted, they played well versus Georgia for the most part. But we've always looked big picture here. And if you're going to throw recruiting into the mix as well, go get you a defensive coordinator that can be an elite recruiter, a defensive staff full of elite recruiters. That's been the peak and valley of this Gator team for the last couple of years. Yes, the offense can get better, a little more consistent as well, especially in the big games this year and versus Kentucky, versus Georgia. You needed a better offensive performance. For the most part, you know what you're getting there, and it's there. If you want to fix recruiting, it starts on the defensive side of the ball. Dan Mullen, more times than not, will be able to scheme something up on offense to have you a championship-level offense.
Florida fans also realize you're not Nebraska, so those people are demanding championships, and that's what they've grown up with. But they got to go 2,000 miles away to get the players. They only have a couple players around. You've got the players right there. Just keep them home. Right there. Yep. In home in the Southeast as well. Florida's been able to have success getting out of Georgia and other states surrounding Florida. But Mark, you're right. It starts in those state lines of Florida, getting better there, keeping Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State out. David, I'm not even a Florida fan. I was just watching the game, and I was still kind of white-knuckling the end of the first half thinking, just get to halftime at 3-0. Just get to halftime. So I want to see a decent second half, at least where there's some kind of chance. How much of that was just Georgia made plays, took over, just it snowballed versus mismanaged, and it kind of started with the interception down inside the 5-yard line, and then obviously they were backed up, and it went from there. Yeah, Mark, my big thing when we talked last week for Florida, Georgia, it was, hey, can the defense get off to a better start? Since Mullen's been head coach at 10-0 Georgia, 10-0 Georgia, 14-0 Georgia, defense did their part early. Florida had every opportunity, making the quarterback switch to Anthony Richardson, taking over for Emory Jones. And Florida had their opportunities to build an early lead, put some pressure on Georgia. But that wasn't done. But like you said, you're still going down late in the first half, and you had your opportunity. You get the interception, split decision. You can't blame Rashad Torrance for what he did and running the ball. He didn't know exactly where he was at on the field. He played it safer. He played it the way, to me, now knowing that he didn't know, he played it the right way. Okay. Now you're asking your redshirt freshman quarterback, making his very first start against one of the best defenses we've seen in recent years, to go make a play, backed up on his own goal line, and in a way made a play on the same play that he fumbled on. He was rushing, got about 8-9 yards, got held up, Georgia stripping at the ball, they get a fumble, and then the avalanche falls apart. And Anthony Richardson, at times, has even said it this year, he puts a lot of pressure on himself. I think once that happened, Florida got down. You started seeing the youthfulness come out. His first interception, Georgia baited him into it. They knew what they had there. I think in the young quarterback, a defensive lineman drops back in coverage, blitz on the other side of the field.
Richardson thinks he can he thinks he can throw it into where the blitz, the vacated area of the field. That defensive lineman that drops back, Richardson never sees him. There's an interception, sets up another Georgia touchdown, and then the pick six. That's the one. Just a late throw that just gets picked. He's going to learn. I mean, a lot of Gator Nation, myself included, wanted the change to be made so he can build, so he can learn, and that's exactly what happened. Never did I expect the quarterback change to mean a win, an upset versus the number one team in the country. But it was, let's see what we have. I think his potential explosion was the only way Florida was even going to have a chance to win that game. We didn't get that, but we got a learning experience from Anthony Richardson. As long as he's healthy, he should be the quarterback from here on out as well.
Folks, join us on Patreon. 13-5 against the spread last week, 107-69 against the spread this season, $5 a month. Join us on Patreon, Mark Rogers TV. Just search it right there.
So, Mark, if they're paying you for Patreon and they take your bet advice, it pays for itself there, right?
Oh, shoot, it paid for itself. Do the math. You bet $100 on each game. You make 90 on the wins. Just do the math. 107-69 against the spread. You're doing fine. Absolutely. So Anthony Richardson versus Emory Jones here. What do you do with this quarterback situation, considering the circumstances of the team and not playing for a championship the rest of the year?
Yeah, Mark, it's about building for 2022. As much as it stings to say first week in November you're playing for next season already, you kind of are at this point. As long as Anthony Richardson's healthy, he did get dinged up versus Georgia, maybe possible concussion, shoulder, definitely an upper body injury there that he may be dealing with. Latest I've heard, I don't know if anybody wants to really say much about the injuries, but he should be good. That's about the extent of it. And nothing 100% confirmed there. But from hearing around, probably should be good to go. So we'll see. I hope Dan Mullen doesn't fall back. I mean, if you started him versus Georgia, you obviously look. You didn't start. I hope you didn't start Anthony Richardson because the cries were loud, the fans were loud, the media was loud about wanting to see a quarterback change. It needed to be because you believed he could go win you a ball game or he could play better than Emory Jones. So if that's the thought you had a week ago, I believe that should be the thought you have moving forward. For 4 teams you should beat: South Carolina, Samford, Missouri, Florida State. So you build on this season. Market kind of something that went by. Mullen shut down media all week after the press conference yesterday. No more media sessions except for the SEC teleconference this week that he's mandated to do. But no other assistant coaches, no players talking to the media this week. So it's kind of a bunker man.
David, what does that tell you? That just screams of paranoia to me.
A couple things about that, Mark. Of course, we mentioned what happened, and I asked a recruiting question yesterday, and immediately got shut down, and he's not going to answer. But also, the Athletic come out with a pretty damning article on the program right now, the lack of physicality, the softness, mainly on defense there. But so a lot of negativity out there right now, and I think Mullen's just trying to shield his team from that. I think there was there was a come to Jesus moment yesterday with the head coach. First of all, starting with himself, that filtered down to the staff, that filtered down to the players of not acceptable and taking more accountability. And I think, and I actually don't blame him for this. There is a lot out there right now about this Gator program. So now a bunker mentality. We're going to get this thing fixed, but it starts with us. And we need to look inside before we move forward. And I think that's the message right now is, hey, we need to fix ourselves. We need to worry about ourselves before we can worry about anything else out there. And I think that's kind of the bunker mentality this week. And, Mark, that's still got to pay off. It's all well and good that you're doing that Saturday night versus South Carolina. It can't be first of all, definitely can't be a loss, but it can't be this struggle your way to a 7-10 point win. South Carolina's got their own issues. They've got their own quarterback injury issues. This is a game Florida should win by double digits easily if the mindset's there and this team wants to play. And I think that's the approach of this team this week.
And I will say Florida State may turn out to be a tougher game
it may be,
than we anticipated a couple weeks ago. David Waters, Gators Breakdown, always great stuff. I would encourage everybody to head on over there, whether that's on your favorite audio platform or right here on YouTube, Gators Breakdown. David, thank you so much for the breakdown. Good stuff.
Thanks, Mark.
And stay out of trouble. No more recruiting questions.